Welcome back to another edition of the Night Report podcast. I'm your host, Mike Broadbent. Joining me once again are my co-hosts, Richie O'Leary and Alec Krauthamel. Got a bit of a somewhat loaded show for you guys today. We're going to talk about all the Rutgers hoops rumblings. We're roster changes on both the men's and the women's side. And we also have some football recruiting discussions. The latest 2027 high school rankings came out. I'll tell you where Rutgers is on some of the top targets in the area, where some of the official visitors, when they'll be visiting Rutgers, and also an update on some of the junior days, who's going to be there, when they're going to be taking place, so on and so forth. But before we get into any of that, this podcast is presented to you once again by FanDuel. This is kind of that weird time of year where there's not a whole lot of sports going on. So I don't really have any advice for you, but if you do like to throw some hard-earned money on some of your favorite sports, do it on the FanDuel app.
I don't know what the spread is tonight, and it doesn't matter. Bet Jack Hughes and the New Jersey Devils tonight against the Buffalo Sabres. It does not matter. After what he did in the Olympics, he's going to follow it up, and he's going to lead him to victory.
I don't know.
That's national hero Jack Hughes.
That's true. They have struggled badly, though, so I don't know. It's tough.
I'm confident they're going to ride that high right into the NHL season again.
I think he's still projected to play, but I don't think he's skated this morning, so.
Nope, man. I hope he plays. But anyway.
Yeah. But let's talk about some hoops. Rutgers basketball last night lost the score, it looks closer than it actually was. I think they lost 79-72 to the Washington Huskies and former Scarlet Knight Lathan Somerville. Rutgers is kind of the team right now that can't really, if a team is better than them, they don't stand a chance. If they're on par or worse, that's the only games that Rutgers looks like they even have a chance of winning. And last night they looked totally outclassed by a Washington team that, similar to Minnesota, were playing down a ton of dudes and weren't particularly good, and Rutgers didn't look like they belonged on the same floor as Washington last night. Alec, you were there. Talk a little bit about kind of what it was like in the arena, because I imagine the fan consternation is kind of ratcheting up slowly, given kind of how things have gone over the second half of the season.
Yeah, I would definitely say it was probably the emptiest conference game of the year. I think a big part of that was the snowstorm, obviously. The weather really put a dent into things. I thought they might have postponed the game, but there wasn't really an opportunity to, because Washington had to head back west because they play Wisconsin on Saturday. But either way, wasn't a great crowd. It was funny. Some of the loudest parts of the game was when Lathan Somerville got the ball, whether it was boos whenever he touched the ball, or cheers whenever he did something negative. He had 8 points and 1 rebound on 3 of 5 shooting in 25 minutes, which is one of the highest minute totals of the year, because Washington was missing one of their other main big men, Frank Kepnang, I think is how you say it. But he was out for this game, so Lathan got the start against his former team. I'm sure that was part of it as well. And he did foul out. So once he fouled out, that got some of the biggest cheers of the night, even with Rutgers losing. But Lathan he really wasn't close to the best big that Washington had that night. That honor would go to Hannes Steinbach, I think is how you say his name, whatever. The German freshman. I mean, he just controlled the game on both ends of the floor. 24 points, 16 rebounds on only 13 shots. Let me see if he had any blocks or steals. He had 3 blocks and a steal. So he completely controlled the game on both ends of the floor. Really solid in the pick and roll on both ends of the floor. He just completely controlled the game. Rutgers, conversely, their true centers, I'll say, combined for, let's see, what is that? 6 points in 32 minutes. Bryce Dortch fouled out after scoring only 2 points in 22 minutes. He also missed both of his field goal attempts, one of which was a wide open breakaway layup. Not good. Rutgers ended up getting 0 points after forcing a turnover on that possession. And then Wesley Yates had 19. He hit some really big shots in the second half. And then it was weird for Rutgers. They had 48 bench points, and 4 of their 5 bench players played more minutes than the starters. So Tariq Francis was the only starter that played more than 15 minutes in the game. Whereas Caden Powers, Dalen Grant, Herun Zerno, Emmanuel Bole all played 15 or less. And then the bench guys, Jermichael Davis, Lino Mark, Bryce Dortch, Darren Buchanan Jr., all played at least 20 minutes. All played at least 22 minutes, I should say. But but Washington was never really truly threatened. I mean, Rutgers made it very interesting at the end when they were really able to ratchet up the pressure. Lino Mark had a couple of really solid stretches where he knocked down 2 free throws and stole an inbound, got a 3-point play, career high 18 points. But I mean, again, kind of like Mike said, when they face off against a team that's more talented than them, they just doesn't look like, they really
Basketball.
Yeah. And this Washington team has taken some really mind-boggling, like they lost to Maryland on Saturday in the first half of their East Coast trip. So this is not a Washington team that's immune to really bad losses. They take their fair share this year, but their execution was at a higher level than Rutgers was. They shot 50% from the floor, 7 of 19 from 3. They committed, I want to say, 7 turnovers in the first half, with 4 of them coming in the last 3 minutes, and they only committed 3 the rest of the way. They out-rebounded Rutgers. They had a huge advantage in the paint, 40-24 in points in the paint. Rutgers, I think they shot like 20 mid-range shots or something like that. So a lot of the problems that we've been talking about. The defense at the basket was not good enough. I mean, it's typical what we've seen from this team this year.
Rich, what are your thoughts on how last night went for the Scarlet Knights?
I'm going to be mean. They fucking stink. I don't know where we even begin. The big man position is a negative. You can't even say it's a 0 because they're just fouling out in 22 minutes for Bryce George. Emmanuel Agboy produced nothing. Does nothing all game long.
Minus 12 in 10 minutes. I don't know if I've seen a figure like that.
Oh, my God, man. It just drives me nuts. The forwards stink now, too. I guess Buchanan had a better game, but Grant is like a 0 now. He does nothing out there. He looks like he just doesn't even want to be there. The guards, we know some of the guards don't want to be there and are probably not going to be there in the next couple weeks. It's just, this is insane. This is just such bad basketball, and it's just lather, rinse, repeat. It's the 3-point shooting sucks. And 3-point shooting is one of the main factors of today's game. You need offense, right? Who can provide this offense? Who can facilitate? No one. Who can provide the offense or a good offense? No one. They have one of the worst 2-point, 2-point average distance in college basketball, bottom 5 in college basketball.
They're average 5th worst.
For average 2-point attempts. That's not what you want to do. They're also one of the bottom 5. I think Max tweeted out from the RU's group pod. Bottom 5 for mid-range shots taken this season. And
in terms of taking the most,
yes. And if you look at the other teams in there, it's Detroit Mercy, who's one of the worst programs in the country. Who are the other 4?
Mississippi Valley State, who's literally a meme for how bad they've been.
Yeah.
Chicago State, who was also a meme up until the last 2 years for how bad they were.
It's just
not a good company to be around.
You look at the shot chart every game, and it's the same shit over and over. Oh, by the way, Riders in that category: Chicago State, who you said, Mississippi Valley, and Detroit Mercy. These are just
Rider on the verge of closing down.
These are the worst programs in college basketball, and Rutgers is right there next to them in terms of mid-range attempts.
I think Rider has some bigger issues than how many mid-range shots their basketball team is taking.
It's just when the game is so adamant that you have to hit threes and you have to attack the rim. And Rutgers is just nah, fuck it. We're going to hit mid-range shots. And you're not going to hit the mid-range shots because they haven't been good at mid-range shots. And the only reason they won a couple games so far, in Big Ten play, is because of Tariq Francis, who's also kind of stunk the past 5 games, 37% from the field the past 5 games. Kind of stinks. And if he can't score, no one can really do anything, or they're not going to win games. Now, good news is they have Maryland and Penn State still on the schedule. 2 shitters. You should be able to win one of them, right? I don't think they win at Maryland. I think if they were home, they probably have a better chance. Well, they won it at home against Maryland, obviously. Penn State, it might come down to the last game of the season if they're going to make the first round bye or not in the Big Ten tournament. It went from we questioned it early on in the season if they were going to even make the Big Ten tournament, and then they switched it, and they're no, all 18 make it. So now it's cool, maybe they'll get a bye and they'll avoid whoever the 17 seed is or the 18 seed. It's just so brutal. I don't know. I'm at a loss of words at this point for this roster. It needs to be purged completely. I don't even care. Purge the roster, restructure the coaching staff. You're going to have money next season or just off season. Redo everything. Just give it one last hurrah and say, we tried.
Yeah. I know a lot of other people who cover the team have had the discussions of, who should stay, who should go ad nauseum. I'm sure we'll get into that as the offseason gets nearer, but it's not a lot in terms of which pieces should stay. There's not a lot. In terms of which pieces do we think will stay?
It's not a lot.
Well, whoever you think should stay or should go, drop it in the comments if you're listening live or if you're listening after the fact, and we'll pop it on the screen. But it leads us nicely into kind of some of the latest of what you guys are hearing. Rich, you made a very, I wouldn't say it's a popular post, but it's a post that's gotten a lot of replies today based on what you're hearing. Let's hear kind of high level what you're hearing about this men's staff, or not staff, this men's roster, and kind of where we could see some turnover potentially.
Yeah. So first and foremost, it sounds like Kelly Zinn's goal was to get like up to around 8 to 8.5 million raised for this team. Now that also includes revenue sharing, which they had this year, which is I think around 3. That will also
that would like basically double what we got in this past year, right? Yeah.
But it sounds like that's actually going to be more than that. It sounds like it's going to go upwards of 10 million. So maybe they won't get to that 10 million, but it's pretty close to it, sounds like, for this offseason. Now, 10 million is going to help, obviously. Like you just said, it's going to double, almost like triple their what they had this offseason or this past season, this current season. I don't even know. But in reality, it's still pretty low. So now here's the problem. Like, yes, he'll get more money. Yes, he'll be able to get better players. My question is he going to be able to put together the right roster and construct the right roster? We just saw what he did this year with a little bit of money. And it just seems like he was so adamant this year that they needed like 9, 10, 11 guys even. And it just doesn't make sense to me. I feel like you almost have to limit that to like a top 7 or 8 and say, we're just going to spend all the money on the 7 or 8. The rest, it is what we're going to get. A bunch of Dennis Battle whatever. Because like, I mean, that was even kind of a waste of money. It looks like too, because he's going to play 4 minutes at the end of the game. You can't invest in freshmen because they're just not going to stay. It already sounds like a couple of them are ready to leave. So if you want to see the names on who we are kind of hearing already have a foot out the door, maybe more than a foot out the door, maybe both feet are out the door and they're just kind of, door's still kind of wide open, but it's like they're pulling it shut. So if you want to check that out, go on the round table for them. But yeah, it sounds like there's multiple freshmen ready to leave. It sounds like there's probably more than just freshmen that are going to leave. It sounds like the coaching staff is probably going to maybe have a slight switch up. Depends really. I guess we could talk about that one. Like,
yeah,
it's very obvious if Pitt opens up, like Brandon Knight is going to be heavily involved. Now, after talking to people, it sounds like not just heavily involved, he'll be on their short list, I was told, and he will most definitely get an interview. Brandon Knight, for those of you that don't know, is like a legendary player there. He has his jersey retired. He's a Pittsburgh University of Pitt Hall of Famer. So, I mean, it just makes a lot of sense. Now, if he goes, that's where things get really interesting. I feel like you can almost personally guarantee Tariq Francis will follow. Tariq Francis is a Pittsburgh native. It makes too much sense. So
yeah, there was a BTN, I think it's The Journey of the series is called, on him, where he said that, you know, he would, I forget what their arena is called, but he would be, you know, on the floor in there as a kid, you know, shooting. And that was always one of his, you know, I don't want to say his dream, but, you know, he always kind of wanted to be a part of that as well. So
it would make too much sense. Smoke would go with him. They both coached together at Pitt as assistant coaches under Jamie Dixon. Like, it makes a lot of sense if they can get the money together to fire Jeff Capel. The other thing is that Pitt also has the problem that Rutgers has, where the buyout's like huge. Now it does drop down a little bit. I think, Alec, you found it yesterday, right?
Yeah, I was listening to a Twitter space last night, and someone said that. Now, I don't have like the exact confirmation myself, but apparently people who know a lot about Pitt basketball said that the buyout drops at a certain date this offseason, but I believe it also has to be, you know, paid out in whole immediately. So we'll see.
So yeah, now they're trying. I know for a fact, like talking to Pitt people, that they're trying to get the money together to buy him out. If they do end up buying him out, it sounds like they're struggling to get that money, which leads me towards them probably not having a ton of money to hire a new coach as well, who would be a cheap, young kind of a up-and-comer coach. It would be Brandon Knight. He's got the ties. You could sell the whole thing. If you're a Pitt guy, you could sell it to Pitt fans saying, hey, he just got 2 top 5 NBA draft picks at Rutgers. Like that's without NIL money. If we can get him some NIL money at Pitt, blah, 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 who cares? So then he takes Smoke, and then that would be 2 assistants, and it would almost force Peichel to go out there and go find some assistant coaches. Now, the problem is who would he go get? Like Pikel's been known for hiring guys he knows, like TJ Thompson. I believe he coached at George Washington. Jay Young, he coached with him at what do you call it? Stony Brook. Like, does he have the connections to go get like an offensive coordinator type coach? I don't know. Can you get someone to like come in? Like, weird comparison because I don't know if it's really worked that well, but like what the women's program did with LeBeau, I forget what her name is, and get like a really high-minded offensive coach and just bring them in to coach for a lame duck coach. Like, is that going to work? Like
Brett McConnell, excuse me.
He's not going to leave Stanford.
I think he's happy at Stanford. I think he's
he
very
also got
happy there.
turned down twice already. He's probably pissed off too, and like
I'm sure he's not happy about it. Yeah,
I would wager
for the next regime to go get me.
I also think he works for a better coach right now in Kyle Smith. So
yeah. I wish.
So the last few years, I think we've had only 4 holdovers from one season to the next, from 23-24 to 24-25, and then 25-26. Who would you guys try and keep if you guys were running the program? Which players would you target, not necessarily for the roles they currently have, but in designing a team that will have enough NIL to be competitive? Who are the guys on the team right now that you would want to keep around? Alec,
well, I think that's the biggest caveat is the role that they're currently in. Because, ideally, in an ideal world, you get upgrades at a lot of these positions. But, I think at a reasonable price, I think you try to keep Tariq Francis around because he is, proven to be a really, solid Big Ten scorer, at least solid. Caden Powers has kind of fallen off in recent games, but I don't know. I think there's something there at least. Darren Buchanan, I think you keep around. I think he's another guy who's versatile. Again, maybe in a bit of a scaled down role type of thing. But for his last year, it seems like he's a really solid leader as well. Guys like him, things like that. He can do a lot of things on the floor. I think you should, again, at the right price, you try to keep him around. And then I'll say someone like Lino Mark. If he never develops his jump shot, then it severely limits his ceiling. But you see legit stuff on defense from him and also driving to the basket. So I think those are guys, again, at the right price, at the right role. I think, those are the main guys that I would look to.
How about you, Rich?
Definitely Buchanan. I feel like Buchanan could have a decent role as even a 6-man, like first forward off the wing type off the bench. Tariq, but I'm not bringing Tariq back as a starter. I don't think I'd bring Tariq back off the bench. It's kind of crazy, right? How he starts and he starts to stink, and then he comes off the bench and he's pretty good.
I think that's how it stands, but whatever.
I know it's stupid. Everyone just keeps complaining about it, but whatever. But everyone's complaining about him not starting, and look where we're at now. So it's just dumb. But I don't know if he'd be an undersized 2 in most lineups. Like, I need someone his size to be running the point and facilitating the offense, and he just can't do that. But I would say those two definitely. After those two, Lino maybe, because I feel like there's something like Alex said, but the lack of a jumper scares the shit out of me, and I'm tired of watching Jermichael Davis not have a jumper for 4 years. Like, I don't think Lino Mark's gonna have a jumper for 4 years at this point. Caden shows so much promise in practice, it sounds like, and he has Geo Baker-esque moves, but then you watch him yesterday and you're like, what the fuck was that shot, dude? Like, what are we doing? Shooting over the 6'10", 6'9" dude, to pull a fadeaway. It just doesn't make sense. I think Zerno has some potential, but it depends who the coach is.
Bring him up because Anthony Montaigne said Zerno.
It really depends on who the coach is, though. If Pikel's the coach, they're clearly not going to set him up for success. He needs to just be a spot up guy that can just go pop off a screen and just pull. He's their best shooter by far, and he gets 0 open looks.
The problem
set him up for open looks. I'm sorry.
Right. Well, part of the problem is even when he does occasionally get those open looks, it's either the most beautiful shot you've ever seen, because it legitimately does look very good coming off his hands. And it either is nothing but net, or it'll clank off the left side of the rim and one of the loudest, loudest deflections you've ever heard.
but like the professional experience combined with the age and freshman eligibility, like it makes, I feel like you have to try to keep him. The rest, I mean, I don't even know if Dorian Jones is ever going to qualify at this point. Dennis Battlehouse 0. Chris Nwoli, he showed promise out of high school, like a lot of promise, and he just doesn't play. Like I'm at the point where if I'm Pikel, I'm just playing all the freshmen. I'm just saying, fuck it. Like we're not winning games. It doesn't matter anymore. Just at least go out there and try to develop these guys. But like Dylan Grant's providing nothing. It's crazy that we're not saying Grant.
Yeah, no, and we haven't really talked about J Mike either. I feel like you got to keep him around if he wants to stick around. Just a guy who can provide some continuity and some leadership. But yeah, it gets thin really fast when you're talking about guys you'd want to bring back, and you have to squint in the right way to be like, yeah, if you want to come back and play this role, that's one thing. But, you know, if you're going to come back and you want to be a starter, the primary scorer, blah, 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 for whoever, you know, insert player here is, I just think a lot of those guys maybe aren't a great fit if that's the role that they want. But
yeah,
if I had to put an over under on the number of guys that are retained, let's set it at 3.5 because we've had 4 the last 2 seasons. Are you guys taking over or under that number for what you expect to happen? Not what you would actually do.
2, 3.
I think I'll go 4. So I'll take the over by a hair. Because I think Pikel really values, and Jim I also does, being that like 4-year guy. Yeah, I mean, the thing with him and Francis is like, again, these are the questions that we had before the season as well. Like, how well can they mesh together? Like, we kind of see them stagger a lot, and I feel like you can't have a majority of your guard room set to two guys who are both undersized in the Big Ten. And, you know, Francis is a good scorer, but Davis isn't. Well, yeah, we're counting Mark in that as well. But you know, Francis is a good scorer, but Davis doesn't really provide as much tangible stuff on the floor. So I think they'll get 4.
Well, 4 guards if you count Dorian Jones, because he's not really that good of a shooter out of high school. I think so. You can't bring all these guys back that can't fucking shoot the ball. Like,
yeah,
it
I
just
think they have 4 returners.
I think you're probably right. I would actually even go a little bit further and say 5, just because, like, I think if I'm guessing right now, I'd say Buchanan, Davis, Francis, obviously pending Knight, but I do think he returns. Caden Powers. Does Dorian Jones count? Like,
that's what I was gonna ask. I think he counts since he's on the roster.
So then that'd be 5, yeah. And then I think the rest end up dipping, if I had to guess, or some maybe just like see it later.
Do we know if Ogbole? Because I
give him the good old Cliff Amori hug and just say, "It's nice knowing you, bud."
I've heard some points to each side. Do we know if Ogbole has another year, or if this is it for him?
Pikel said it in his couple press conferences this season. He said everyone on the team has eligibility for next season.
Oh,
so yeah, woohoo! Bring him back again as a third center. Fuck it, sure, why not? You could play the Bayfall role.
Bayfall doesn't play though.
Exactly.
Yeah, I mean, I don't see it.
No, I mean, I don't know. It's just so weird.
Yeah.
But like, there's multiple that already, like, again, for people that are in the comments, I'm seeing like, who do you guys think is going to be on the roster? Like, if you go on the message board right now, you'll see multiple names that we've already kind of hinted that are already basically looking around and looking with one eye like towards this way and saying like, oh, who's interested in me? Because that's how the portal works now. If you didn't read the article by Joe Tipton, something just fell. If you read the article by Joe Tipton yesterday, 2 days ago, he's talking about how like he talked to multiple assistant coaches throughout college basketball in the ACC and the Big East, an SEC coach. I don't think he quoted a Big Ten coach, but they're all anonymous too, so it doesn't really matter. But one of the coaches was literally quoted as saying like portal talk starts in November. Like I know multiple kids that are already like talking with their agents saying like, hey, this kid's averaging 20 a game, and this agent's already pushing his kid out to multiple programs and saying like, hey, 20 per game over here at Temple, come look, Gavin Griffiths. Like, no, like not him specifically, but like we've heard mid-season like of Rutgers guys already like wanting to get out. So it's going to happen. Like people are tampering. Like it's very obvious. Like you'll see it and you'll see the names and Might be shocked by some, you might not be shocked by some, but yeah, go check out the round table. And there's you can't recruit freshmen anymore if you're a Rutgers type program where they don't have money, because you're not going to be able to keep those guys, especially if you keep losing like this and losing really badly in some of these games and getting blown the hell out. No one wants to stick around. Like, why would I stick around and get blown out by 20 or we get blown out by 25 to some programs when I can go to like the A10, make almost the same amount of money, if not more, because some A10 programs this season had more money than Rutgers, and win some games and maybe make the tournament and say, hey, I played in an NCAA tournament.
Well, the A10 unfortunately has not lived up to its historical billing, unfortunately. But I guess the theme of the story is, if you ain't tampering, you ain't trying in 2026 and 2025, to be fair.
Basically. You're on mute.
I think they need to figure out a less balanced way of spending money, because it seems like they kind of spread things out pretty evenly with how they've decided to go after the portal in the past. And I think you just got to kind of spend 80% of your money on your top 8 guys, and then the remaining 5 or 6, you spend the rest on. They're not expected to start. Maybe you take some flyers on some. That's the other thing, is like, these guys, you have to have a plan. These guys have to fit some way, because the last few years they're just going and getting guys without really a whole lot in terms of thought of how they'll fit into a system, how they'll fit into, these rotations that they want to do. Like, how many lineups are we putting out there right now where it's just like, it seems like just 5 random guys that he pulled off the bench, like not playing with the center, which some of those smaller lineups have worked, some of them haven't, but it still seems like they don't really know who their best 8 guys on the team are right now. And we've got 2 games left in the season, or 3 games left in the season.
At one point last night, they had like a 0 shooter lineup. I think it was like Mark. I think it was like Mark, Davis, Buchanan, Dortch, and Grant, or something like that. It was some lineup where it was like, none of these guys are passable shooters.
He's just not going to change his philosophy. It's always going to be defense, and that defense is going to turn into transition points, hopefully. And in order to get back to that, you're going to have to spend a lot of money on wings. You're going to have to spend money on a taller, lengthier guard. So, like, you can get away with maybe Francis being out there for a little bit, but you're going to have to go get like a 6'4", 6'5" point guard. You're going to have to go get another 6'7" wing that can kind of help split minutes with Buchanan. You're going to have to get a power forward that can actually like defend. And then you need a center that can rim protect. So can they afford that all with 8, 9, 10 million even? I don't know, especially if, say, hypothetically, like Tariq Francis is going to get close to $1 million, if not more. Like, the market's going to be inflated again. And then there goes 1 million already for one player. And he might not even be a starter on this team next year. Like, I guess he could be. He's going to play starter minutes. It doesn't really matter, I guess, with the starting thing, but it's just, that's $1 million gone already. We know Grant got $500,000 this year. Like, I'm not giving him $500,000 next year to do nothing. Like, it's tough. I don't know how they're going to divvy it up. Like, and you also have to get people that are interested in you too. And I think it's just like football. There's a Rutgers tax. Like,
yeah, I'm curious to see.
That's one of the keys for sure.
Yeah, that's going to be the top job of Rob Sullivan, is bringing in guys, because he was on the Rutgers Rant and he kind of outlined where a lot of his job has been, building relationships throughout the college basketball industry, whether that's with agents or certain things like that. And, properly, vetting and going through all the guys that they think are going to enter the portal. And now you got to figure out which guys fit what you want to do. And that's going to be a Steve Pikiell question. And they should have more money, but of course the market's always going to go up. So the question is, what are they going to do with the increased money this offseason? That's the key crux of everything. Can they properly manage the money that they spend this offseason? I mean, this past offseason, I'll say the answer, obviously, I don't think was a yes. I think it was more of a no. So we'll see if there's more money. How does that affect what they're able to do?
Speaking of money this offseason, it's been bandied about whether or not Coquise Washington will be back. Her buyout after the season, I think, would be like 1.6, and after next season it would be like 850K-ish. Alec, what are you hearing in terms of the latest on the women's coaching situation?
Yeah, so the last home games tonight against Indiana, it's not concrete either way. If I had to guess right now, I would say probably a change gets made. But I have started to hear some rumblings that that's not as, locked down, rock solid as it seemed, a little while ago. There's a chance she may return that I'm starting to hear a little bit more rumblings about. Again, it's not concrete either way. The decision hasn't been made yet in either direction, but I do think it's kind of telling that some more of the fact that we're starting to hear that she could come back. I think the fact that it's starting to pop up now is a little bit telling.
If she returns, Zin's starting going to lose some of the fan base almost immediately. And it's not even women's basketball fans. It's more of like, okay, this is like arguably the worst coach in the athletic department for multiple years now. Why? Like, you're not going to pay $1.675 million just to get rid of her? Like,
Yeah,
and then
I mean,
you're going to convince me next year that if Peichel has a bad year, they're going to pay $20 million, $16 million to get rid of him. Like, come on. Like,
yeah, I mean, I guess the biggest thing would be like, she wants to give all of the coaches like a clean slate off season where they have the resources that, she's able to raise. Because, I mean, much like pretty much all the other programs on the women's side, Rutgers has not had, for basketball, not had the resources, the financial resources that they need to compete in roster building and things like that. But for Steve Peichel and Greg Schiano, the case is at least, they've had success at Rutgers while Coquise Washington has not. Her best year was her first year when they had a roster of 8 players and they scrapped the 5 Big Ten wins, which I thought was pretty impressive at the time, especially considering they were completely healthy the entire year. But it's just gone downhill since then, and I think this year is probably the worst year it's been. And this was supposed to be a year where you shuffle around the coaching staff, you shuffle around the roster. There were some questions about who the number one option is going to be. I think Nene Anja has answered that question as for, she's been the leading scorer, but they just haven't taken a step forward. They've been stuck in the Big Ten's basement, for all 4 years now. And I don't know. I don't think they'll be able to completely flip that just based off one off season with some more money, because the portal is going to be just as insane on the women's side.
How do you justify giving her another year? Like, you could justify it with Peichel, fine, sure. Peichel's buyout's huge. It's enormous. He's got you to a couple NCAA tournaments. Like, all right, sure. Greg Schiano got you to back-to-back 7-win seasons in his 2.0 era. Obviously, we all know what he did in the 1.0 era. Yes, that still plays a factor. Baseball, like, was the first team out, second team out of the tournament like 2-3 years ago without money. Who else? Wrestling always has a pretty solid program. Now they're getting them some money and they're going to make some noise. They just showed it on the recruiting trail, landing up their first ever 7-figure recruit. Like, she just hasn't done anything. And it's not just like she was just bad at Rutgers. She was bad at Penn State too. That's why the hire made no sense when it first happened. You don't hire
they were
someone from the conference that stunk in the conference already. Like,
they were stuck in a bit of a, I know we're, rehashing all the old stuff, but they were stuck in a bit of a compromising spot. But the wins just haven't been there. That's what it boils down to. When we talked with Kelly Zinn back in August, she said, "What are you doing based off of, the last 4 years?" was what she said. And I thought that was really telling, because this was going to be the 4th year for not just Washington, but a couple of other coaches, I believe, as well. I could be wrong there, but that was the one that kind of stuck out to me. And, they've been near the bottom of the Big Ten all 4 years. This year, they're at the bottom of the Big Ten. Their only win was against Penn State, and then they turn around on Saturday on Senior Day, and they lost that same Penn State team where, by the way, your former star point guard dropped 37 points on you.
On top of that, like, you gave her, this was her gimme year. She doesn't get another gimme year. You just gave her 2 top-tier assistants from UCLA, which is a pretty damn good program. And instead, like, you just blew it up. You lost to fucking Rhode Island. Like,
oh no, they beat Rhode Island. They got blown up by Stony Brook. That was
that's what it was.
That was the really bad one.
Yeah,
Rhode Island, by the way, that's their best win of the year. By the way, the fact that they beat Rhode Island, that's their best win of the year, because Rhode Island is a really good team. But
you just can't keeping her, dude. Just pay. I'll raise the $1.6 million through the podcast real quick. That just started GoFundMe.
Yeah, sure.
If you could do that, Rich, let's talk.
We don't have enough.
Yeah. Wait a minute. I think we need that more than Kelly Zinn does.
Halt. Get the super chat going.
So, in her last 3 years, she is 6-46 in conference. I think that says enough.
Yeah, out. See ya.
And they even like kind of switched up their style this year. Like the past 3 years, they were, They were really a team that would run up and down the floor, play with a lot of pace, a lot of possessions. This year they've started to slow it down, and their half court offense has been awful. So I don't know where you go from here.
You blame the players or you blame the coaches?
Me? I mean,
like it's the different roster every year, and it's just what's the one concurrent thing that happens every year? The same coaching.
Well, yeah, I mean that's the biggest problem. Well, they also flipped over pretty much the entire coaching staff except for obviously Coach Quaison and one of the assistants. I mean, I just don't think there's enough of a structure offensively. Like I see some bad stuff happening offensively, and obviously part of that falls on the players for not making the plays they need to on offense. But at the same time, like the offense has had the same consistent problems it's had pretty much all 4 years. They turn the ball over too much. They've never been a good 3-point shooting team, in the 4 years that Washington's been the head coach. The offense just has not taken a step forward. The defense has been in and out, sometimes solid, especially this year. They've been solid at times, but the offense has just been the constant problem. So I don't know. We'll see how it ends. Again, it's not concrete either way at this point on Wednesday, February 25th. But starting to hear some rumblings that it could lean towards returning. So we'll see.
I mean, for one reason or another, they lose their top player every year too. Like they get these top-ranked recruits, and the reason they're getting them is because no one else wants to touch them, and now they just end up leaving after a year. Like Keone McMiller is a highlight just waiting to happen. Now is she a problem off the court? Sure, but you have to be able to manage that too.
Probably going back in the portal if I had to guess this year as well, because Carolyn Keeger is more than likely going to get canned at Penn State. So.
It's insane. I don't get it.
So stay tuned there. Definitely will be a lot of movement both in the player and coaching world for hoops in the next week or so as seasons end. And some people's favorite time of the year with cert season among us. But let's transition to some football talk. Rich, the top 300, I think, dropped for the class of 2027. You posted kind of where Rutgers stands with some of the top targets in the area. Where do you think stand with some of the top players in Rutgers' main recruiting regions?
Yeah, so top 300 got dropped. Multiple New Jersey guys, I believe 5 of them. St. Peter's Prep offensive lineman, Olubobola. I think I got that right. Glassboro wide receiver Xavier Saab, Don Bosco D lineman Aiden O'Neill, Shabazz edge rusher, Adakunbi Teo. That sounds close. I feel like I was pretty close on that one. That's better than my usual. And then wide receiver / tight end Lawrenceville, Colt Lumpers, who's currently committing to Alabama. And out of that list, I don't see Rutgers' chances too high with any of them. Colt Lumpers might be the only one, but like I just said, he's committed to Alabama. The only thing that's different there, I believe Alabama's tight ends coach ended up moving to a different position group. So he has to learn the new assistant, and that was a factor. Rutgers is selling him to be the next like KJ Duff-esque. Despite the Alabama commitment, he does have a bunch of visits planned. He plans to get the Rutgers for a spring practice, and we'll probably talk about spring dates and all that in a second. But Rutgers is selling him on that KJ Duff role, whereas like he's a hybrid new age tight end, but at Rutgers, he would be an outside receiver. He's 6'6", 215, 220-ish, a lot of length. He's very high on the development that Rutgers has had with the wide receiver room and even the tight end room, which he complimented quite a bit, which was kind of ironic considering they don't really use a tight end. But yeah, other than him, there's a couple new offers too. Like probably their top quarterback on their recruiting board is Jake Norat. He went from unranked to number 32 in the country. Iowa lean, so probably not going to happen there. Who else? Anthony Roberts, North Carolina wide receiver, is 296 in the country. He's one to keep a close eye on. He's going to be at Rutgers for the junior day that comes up next weekend, March 7th, which we already confirmed about, I think, 12 to 15 names. So check that out on the boards too. A lot of big name kids are coming up to campus. But yeah, for the most part, it's so early with recruiting. This is our first update of the 2026 calendar year for the 2027 class, and it's our first 2027 update in like 3-4 months. So a lot of this is going to change. You're going to see a lot of guys that were non-ranked that are going to go to ranked. You're going to see a lot of guys that go from 3 stars to 4 stars. You're going to see the vice versa. You're going to see a lot of 4 stars go to 3 stars as you continue to evaluate film. And we have a crazy team of like 100 people that just constantly are looking at film. So I think Sidney Padilla got his ranking as well for Rutgers. Not top 300, but I think believe he's in the top 20 for New Jersey. got an 87 overall. Yeah, that's pretty much it recruiting wise. But the junior day coming up next weekend, you definitely want to check out. Definitely something to keep a close eye on, because there's going to be a lot of names there, a lot of notable names, which with even some guys that have some RPM predictions. That's our like new crystal ball future cast or whatever you want to call it.
And additionally, a bunch of official visits have started to kind of get set up by recruits. Same period of time that it normally happens the last few years, end of May, beginning of June. Who are some of those players that have set up official visits already?
Let me pop that up. I know Jamar Taylor is one wide receiver out of Delaware, Salesanium High School. He's one to keep a close eye on. We've actually already submitted an RPM for him to end up at Rutgers. I think there's a damn good chance there. He's very high on Dave Brock. Another taller, kind of Ian Strong-like build, 6'4", 200 pounds. Javian Robinson, a little bit on the smaller side. Built like Bo Melton. I'm just trying to compare him to Rutgers guys. These aren't like film comparisons, just so we make that clear. Javian Robinson, 6'1", 170. McKeesport to Pennsylvania. He's called Rutgers' leader so many different times, just still hasn't popped. Now, who knows? Maybe on his May 29th official visit, that could be it. Seal the deal. He's also hearing a lot from Penn State. Aiden Gibson, Woodruff High School down in South Carolina. He's got a couple different offers. He's got South Carolina after him, hometown school. He's got Penn State after him. He's got 2 visits scheduled there. So he's going to be a tough one to get a hold of or to land, but he is one of the top names on their board. I think he just got bumped up to like in the top 400 in the country. Lance Henderson out of Southern High School down in Durham, North Carolina. It's a 2-horse race kind of right now between Rutgers and North Carolina State. He's been to North Carolina State about a dozen times, but Rutgers has kind of low-key been eating North Carolina State's lunch money on the recruiting trail in the past couple cycles. So it wouldn't shock me if they could pull this one off again. A little on the smaller side for a safety at 5'11", listed 5'11", 180. So kind of maybe fit the Christian Izzian type role, maybe a little bit small, a little bit taller than Izzian, but and then Isaiah Alvarez, wide receiver out of Don Bosco Prep. He really likes Rutgers. He really likes Penn State. I expect them to kind of stay in the Northeast region. I think those two are going to put up a damn good fight. I think he also has trips to Maryland and I believe is Boston College. So kind of going to stick with those Northeast schools, but we'll wait and see what happens there. That's an interesting one. But wide receiver. Tell me who's crushing on the recruiting trail right now, and a running back. So do the math.
Yeah, no, I'm a big fan of Jamar Taylor, the kid from Delaware. So hopefully we're able to grab him in the future cast or the RPM, whatever we call it now, is accurate.
Different name every time.
Speaking of the coaching staff, though, still looking for a linebackers coach. I think that's the last staff member that that Greg Schiano and company are looking to fill. Elijah Hodge got hired as an assistant linebackers coach. And Steve Ferentz, the guy who worked previously under Travis Johansson, was with the Giants last year, got hired by the Raiders. So that looks like it's not going to happen. What are you hearing about the linebacker coach search and where things could possibly go there?
Yeah, it sounds like Terrell Hodge is like the overwhelming favorite to just get promoted to linebackers coach. He was hired as an assistant linebackers coach. They were going to bring in someone, but just sounds like things didn't work out that way. Sounds like it's just as simple as that. For those of you that don't know, Hodge was the inside linebackers coach for South Dakota from 2022 to 2024. Weirdly enough, I don't know the reason behind it, but he left South Dakota for 2025, the year that Travis Johansson took over as head coach. But he was the inside linebackers coach, but the outside linebackers coach was Steve Ferentz, who you just mentioned is now with the Raiders. But it sounds like during that time, Steve Ferentz was more of the edge rushers coach versus Hodge was the full-time like linebackers coach for the 2 linebackers that go out there for their 4-2-5 scheme. But yeah, it sounds like he would be the overwhelming favorite. He's a former Wisconsin. I forget where he's from. Is he from Iowa? You guys might know.
Yeah, I believe he went to Iowa.
Yes, he went to Iowa. But yeah, hired as the assistant linebackers coach. Sounds like they're just going to promote from within. It makes a lot of sense considering the timing. It's almost March already. You don't really have many options out there. So yeah, I mean, it makes sense. It's Travis Johansson's choice on who he wants basically for his whole defensive staff, and just makes sense to bring in someone that already knows you, already has worked with you, has helped produce a couple 100+ tacklers in the past 3 seasons, or his 3 seasons with South Dakota. And he was a head coach at a high school up in Massachusetts, so he knows the Northeast area at least. Fort Lauderdale kid, played at Dillard High School. Some of you might remember Chris Johnson Jr., one of the fastest kids in college football right now, was committed to Rutgers for a little bit. And yeah, he played at Wisconsin, by the way.
Okay, I think Abdul Hodge might have played at Iowa, or coaches at Iowa, some Iowa connection there.
He's the tight ends coach currently at Iowa.
Okay.
Yeah. So
what else football related is there to discuss? We hit it all?
Drake players can enter the transfer portal now.
Officially?
Great point.
I think. Has it? I don't know. They're at the very least, the clock has started for the portal window to open because they hired a new head coach. No, sorry, 2 more days. Sorry.
Yeah.
Jeez, 2 more days until their 15-day window.
Let's do a refresher on how that system works, because it even confuses me.
So once a team hires a new head coach or announces the hire of a new head coach, you have 5 days until the 15-day window opens. So once that 15-day window opens, obviously the players have 15 days to enter the transfer portal. We saw Mikey Munn enter and then sign with Rutgers conspicuously quickly. Just kidding. So Drake players, I believe, have 2 or 3 more days until they can enter. Obviously, the main guy that we're looking at is Allison, the linebacker. Let's see. South Dakota has how many more days do they have? I think it's just one, right?
One.
Okay.
Yeah.
So figure, I would assume there won't be many, if any at all. I would assume Rutgers is close to done with South Dakota guys. Yeah.
Yeah, no, it's I thought maybe we'd see more than Mikey Munn added from South Dakota. There's a few guys who I really like, but looks like that might not be the case. So, fewer guys than I anticipated in general leaving South Dakota. I think Mikey Munn might have been the only guy who left.
Yeah, I believe so.
I think so. Yeah.
I don't think anyone else entered.
I think a big part of that is a lot of the guys had already re-signed. So
Yep.
I guess they just were already set and returning and didn't want to, leave at this point in this venture in the off season. And I believe there's also another section of the rule that says if your program doesn't hire a head coach within 30 days, the 31st day, because NIU, there's some discourse about whether NIU players will be able to enter because they announced an interim head coach. I believe the 31st day after your head coach leaves, you can enter the transfer portal for that 15-day window.
Wait, what's his name interim? Didn't they just promote the OC at South Dakota?
I'm talking about Northern Illinois. So
I know, but isn't that the same thing?
South Dakota, they just announced him as the full-time head coach. Now, what's the difference between just an interim and a full-time? I don't know, but
whatever.
That's up to the NCAA to decide.
Dumb. Anyway, sounds like Rutgers spring ball is going to begin on the week of the 23rd, probably towards the end of that week. It usually starts after the spring break, which is the week before that. So do the math. They will probably begin mid to late that week. So somewhere between the 25th to the 28th, I would assume. And then you'll probably get the spring game probably on Rutgers Day, if I had to guess. Hasn't been announced yet, but Rutgers Day is April 25th, which if you do the math, they do a couple practices per week. It adds up to 15 practices being on that day. So
it's also been on Rutgers Day for the last however many years. So
it makes too much sense not to.
One can not assume, but one can guess that it will probably be on that day again.
Yeah, pretty much.
A few other sports to kind of wrap things up. Baseball had a couple close losses after some impressive performances against Virginia Tech. They play again this weekend, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. Wrestling's regular season has ended, and the Big Ten championships take place next weekend, the 6th and 7th. That's out in State College at the Bryce Jordan Center. Then I think the following weekend would be the NCAA championships. But any other kind of high-level news items you guys wanted to touch?
I mean, baseball's on the road. I forgot if you actually said it or not, but they're on the road this weekend.
Yeah, it's like
down in North Carolina. It's like I think it's like an invitational type weekend or whatever. They play
Correct.
East Carolina Friday, Western Carolina Saturday, and then Troy on Sunday. And then Tuesday, I'm sorry, March 3rd, they have their first home game against Georgetown, which I can't believe the home baseball season's already here.
Yeah, that's nuts. For those of you that don't know, East Carolina is one of the best mid-majors in the country, and they have a pitcher who's considered one of the best southpaws in the country. So,
Okay.
Yeah,
Gonna be a tough
they were
one.
originally supposed to play St. Joe's at St. Joe's yesterday. Obviously, that got postponed due to the weather, so we'll see if that gets made up.
yeah, later in the season, just bump it down somewhere.
Yeah, I feel like lacrosse is off to a solid start. Both men's and women's, they both beat Villanova over the weekend. So it was pretty funny. They had a lot of operations crew people shoveling out the snow in the SHI Stadium in the stands. So big shout out to them. Yeah, the men beat LIU yesterday as well. So pretty solid few days for lacrosse.
But that's kind of all we got, I guess, then, huh?
I think so, right?
It's that weird time of year where like spring practice hasn't started yet. The basketball season's still going on, so there's not transfer portal stuff to talk about for hoops yet, but that will start kicking up soon, and we'll have you covered there. Obviously, when spring practice kicks off at the end of March, we'll have you covered there as well. But that's all we got for you guys for the rest of the day. For me, Richie, and Alec, this has been another edition of the Night Report podcast. Signing off.